It's Bitcoin, y'all. I'm your host, Zoom Out. Here to talk to you today about the philosophy of Bitcoin as the world's greatest savings account. Uh, Quick disclaimer, this is not financial advice. If you want to buy Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, then do your own research and talk to a financial advisor first. That out of the way, this video is a little more um, speculative and in the sense of it talks about some what ifs for the future. So remains to be seen if the things that I'm going to be talking about today actually come to pass. But this one, the value proposition of Bitcoin as the world's greatest savings account, is the one that is the most interesting to me personally. I think it's a fascinating concept. I'll do other videos in the future that are other value propositions of Bitcoin, like as a monetary network, as a means of exchange, etc. But today I want to talk about this idea of a savings account. So if you go back to my first video, I go through some things about Bitcoin, just how it works, what it is, in the sense that it's immutable. It has a hard cap, and we know how much is going to be entering the market, about how often, and then we know that there's an ending to that. There's only going to be 21 million. We know that it's decentralized, that it can't be manipulated, it can't be inflated, that can't be changed, and so all of those things, those properties of Bitcoin, make it a perfect vessel for the world's greatest savings account. So, what would the best savings account out there be? The best savings account would be if you could save your money in it, and if you put money as a representation of wealth. So if you put $100 in it, then 10 years later, or 100 years later, or 1,000 years later, that $100 that you put in it would buy the same amount of stuff. It would represent the same amount of wealth. So if the money of the world had been inflated, and that $100, it now takes $1,000 to buy the same amount of stuff, you would have $1,000 in Bitcoin, and that would roughly that would just automatically happen. It would adjust so that it was not an investment tool in the sense of you're not trying to make more wealth, but it preserved your wealth perfectly. And because of the properties of Bitcoin, because there's a hard cap on it, and it can't be inflated away, and that it holds the properties to become that. Now, the thing that makes it not that currently is the same thing that could potentially make it a good investment or a bad investment. So we're still in a phase where it's an investment, and that thing is volatility. The price of it goes up and down. You'll hear people talk about, there's been 50% moves up. It's gained 50% value in just a couple days. There's been times where it's gone 50% down in just a couple days. That's extremely volatile. That's scary. If you put a large sum of money into that, and then over a course of a few days it drops 50%, that's going to feel bad. If it goes up 50%, that's going to feel great. But there's a lot of risk there. The thing that would take the volatility out of Bitcoin would be a significant amount of money pouring into Bitcoin. And so what am I talking about here? I'm talking about like $50 trillion, $100 trillion. More, 2 or 3 times the GDP of America, right? So large amounts of money. And what you have that exists in the world is something called fixed income. You'll hear people talk about that sometimes in markets. And they're often buying things like real estate, things like long-dated treasury bonds issued by the government, by the United States government, and other governments in the world. that have so if you buy like if you assume that we're going to have 2% inflation over time, average a year, and you can buy a 20-year treasury bond or a 30-year treasury bond that gives you 2% interest over time, then you're preserving your wealth. You're keeping it the same. So if you can buy real estate that's going to hold its value over time, then you're preserving your wealth. So gold can be an asset that is a store of wealth that will adjust with inflation and deflation over time, and so it's a good way to hold your money. So Bitcoin, because of its attribute of having a hard cap, also could be that, but it comes with some advantages. The advantage is that it's you don't have to store it. It's liquid in the sense that you can sell it pretty quickly, and you don't have to spend large amounts of money to move it from one place to another, right? Like you would gold, or real estate you can't move, right? So if, and this is the speculative part, if the fixed income in the world, portions of it, decided, hey, we can store our money in Bitcoin, which will take the volatility out of it, then it will become the world's best savings account. It'll take all the volatility out of it, and it'll still have all those other properties. So then it's not an investment anymore. It gives you this promise. You work hard, you spend less than you make, and you save that money, and you put it into Bitcoin, and over time, it just adjusts with the money supply so that it buys you the same amount of stuff down the road. So it becomes a good store of wealth. That is the idea to me that for the future of Bitcoin is one of the more exciting ones. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to hear more, hit subscribe. The videos that I'm going to be doing are not all going to be like this, more esoteric, speculative. A lot of them are going to be more about the practical, news events and what it is and things like that. But I will be doing some of these philosophical videos too. So stay tuned, and yeah, I'll be back.